My name is Delaney. The morning it began felt ordinary, too ordinary. He slid a sheet of paper across the kitchen counter, as if it were nothing more than a grocery list. I was pouring coffee when I glanced down and saw numbers, a balance and a lender's name. "It's my sister's loan," he said. Calm. Smooth. "She's in trouble. We can help. One payment and it's gone." I looked at him, waiting for more. He picked up his mug, sipped and added, "I didn't want to burden you, but they're calling every day. If we don't pay, her credit's ruined." My sister-in-law. She was always juggling something, part-time jobs, kids, endless bills. Sounded believable. But something in his tone made me hesitate. Still, family meant helping. And his eyes were steady, almost rehearsed. I wired the money by noon. A large amount but manageable. I printed the confirmation and stuck it under the peach-shaped magnet on our fridge. He kissed me on the forehead, whispered "thank you," and walked out as if I had simply bought groceries. That should have been the end. A loan, a favor, a quick fix. But the next morning, a white envelope lay on the doormat. No stamp. No return address. Inside, one sleek business card. A woman's name. A private number. And on the back, in ink, "Thank you for the timely resolution. I look forward to future transactions." Transactions. Plural. I froze. Why would anyone expect future transactions if this was just a one-time family loan? I called my sister-in-law. She sounded confused when I asked about it. "We don't have a loan anymore," she said. "We cleared everything months ago." "Why?" My chest tightened. "No reason," I lied. That night, he came home later than usual. His excuse was work, always work. But when he set his phone on the table, face down, I noticed the faint perfume on his jacket. Not mine. Not my sister-in-law's. Something sharper. Foreign. After dinner, he talked about nothing: work, politics, sports highlights, a friend's vacation. His tone was too casual, as if filling silence. Meanwhile, the envelope burned in my pocket. I waited until he fell asleep, then went downstairs and pulled the business card back out. I typed the number into my phone but didn't press call. My finger hovered. Instead, I checked our bank account. The wire was there, but another charge caught my eye. A hotel. The night before. Just hours after I sent the money. My pulse hammered. The amount wasn't large, but enough to mark dinner for two. I opened the Notes app and wrote the details. Date, time, charge. Then I took a screenshot, printed it, and slid it under the same peach magnet next to the wire receipt. Proof was stacking. The next day I drove past the hotel. Polished glass. Chrome trim. Too expensive for a quick meeting. I parked across the street and waited. At 6:30 my patience paid off. He walked out. Not alone. She was elegant, dark coat, perfect hair, moving beside him like they'd practiced. His hand brushed her back as they stepped into a restaurant. I raised my phone and snapped the photo. For a moment I sat frozen. The world looked the same, but nothing was the same anymore. He had looked me in the eye over coffee, spoken about family, and within hours he was holding another woman's back like she belonged to him. I drove home in silence, placed the printed photo under the peach magnet, and stared at the line of evidence. Loan payoff, business card, hotel receipt, photo. When he walked in later that night, his smile was warm. He smelled faintly of cedar and something sweet, dessert. He hugged me as if nothing had changed. But I had changed. That night I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling in the dark, every inhale and exhale sounding like a lie. 2 a.m. His phone lit up. I rolled over, pretended to stir, and caught the name flashing across the screen. Rowan Consulting. The same name printed on the card. My blood ran cold. I whispered the words to myself: slow, steady, dangerous. Rowan Consulting. I didn't know who Rowan was yet, but one thing was clear. The money I sent hadn't saved family. It had fed his secret. And now, with the card, the hotel, and the lie, I was holding a match. All I needed was the right moment to strike. By morning, the card still sat under the peach magnet, daring me to touch it. I brewed coffee and tried to act normal. He came into the kitchen, tie knotted, smile steady. He kissed my cheek as though the night before had been uneventful. "About the loan," I said, keeping my voice light. "Can you text me the lender's number? I'd like to confirm the payoff for the records." His hand paused just slightly on his mug. Then he nodded. Of course. Seconds later, my phone buzzed with a number. It didn't match the one on the card. The second he left, I dialed the number from the envelope instead. A smooth female voice answered, businesslike. Good morning, Rowan Consulting. This is Delaney, I said. I received your card about a loan payoff. Her tone warmed. Yes, Mrs. Hale. Thank you for your efficiency. We trust our arrangement will continue. Arrangement. I repeated. Correct. Sensitive accounts. Private matters. Balances that need discretion. And who exactly are you protecting? I asked. Your husband, she said. Calm. Direct. I ended the call before my voice betrayed me. My hands trembled as I set the phone down. This wasn't about family. It was about him. At noon, I drove to my sister-in-law's apartment carrying flowers. She hugged me hard, tears of gratitude spilling. I don't know what we'd do without you, she whispered. I asked careful questions. When had the loan started? Which bank? She frowned. We don't have a loan. We haven't for months. Everything's cleared. He said you helped us once, but... She trailed off, puzzled. My heart clenched. He had lied not just to me but to her too. He had used her as cover. Back home, I printed the call log and slid it under the magnet. 3 pieces of proof now. And growing. That evening, he returned late, jacket smelling faintly of perfume, phone set face down on the table. He told stories about work, a new client, small annoyances. I laughed in the right places, but my mind burned with questions. Halfway through dinner, I asked, who exactly is Rowan Consulting? His fork paused for half a second. Then he smiled too casually. A vendor. Overflow accounts. Nothing important. They called me, I said evenly. They said we had an ongoing arrangement. His eyes flickered, barely noticeable, but I caught it. He swallowed. They exaggerate. Ignore it. Then explain it to me, I pressed. You're what matters, he said, reaching for my hand. Later, when he slept, his phone buzzed again. A text flashed across the lock screen, tomorrow. Same place. Same time. No name. Just those words. I grabbed my keys at dawn, drove to the hotel, and parked across the street. At 5:30 p.m. I saw him exit with the same woman from last night. His hand brushed her lower back. Their heads tilted close. Too close. I filmed 30 seconds of video, her laughing, his hand steady on her waist. Then I took a clear photo of her face. At 7 p.m. He texted me, running late. Client emergency. I stared at the video still playing on my phone. Client emergency. His lies stacked like bricks, and I was building the wall that would collapse on him. That night, I slid the new evidence beneath the peach magnet. For pieces now. The fridge was turning into an altar of betrayal. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A blocked number. The message was short, sharp, terrifying. Stop looking. You won't like what you find. Another buzz. Meet me tomorrow. Conservatory Cafe. 11. Come alone. My husband's lies were bigger than I'd feared. And now a stranger had just pulled me deeper into a web I couldn't see the edges of. The next morning, I sat in my car outside the Conservatory Cafe long before 11. Rain misted the windshield. I had the folder of evidence beside me. Every receipt, every photo, every printed call log stacked in order. My hands drummed the steering wheel, restless. Whoever had texted me knew more than they should. At 11 sharp, a man slid into the chair across from me at a corner table. I had already ordered coffee and pretended to read a newspaper. He looked mid-40s, neat suit, a wedding band glinting on his finger. His first words were quiet. You don't know me, Mrs. Hale, but you need to listen. My pulse kicked hard. Who are you? Someone who has been forced to clean up after your husband, he said. He pushed a slim envelope across the table. Don't open it here. Just know that what you've paid is only the surface. He's been moving money under your name, using your good credit to shield his mistakes. Why tell me this? Because my client, the woman you saw him with, thinks she's safe. She isn't. And when this breaks, you'll be dragged with him unless you're ready. He stood, adjusted his jacket, and left before I could ask another question. I sat frozen for 10 full minutes, fingers pressed to the envelope. When I finally opened it in the car, I found copies of 2 documents. a loan application and a wire transfer authorization. Both had my name forged in shaky handwriting. Both tied to accounts I had never seen. By the time I reached home, the peach magnet could barely hold everything I'd collected. The fridge looked like a crime board. My stomach churned. He was risking not only his reputation but mine, my future. That evening I watched him laugh over dinner, casually scrolling through his phone. I forced myself to smile, to ask about his day, to listen to his stories. He leaned in, kissed my cheek, called me his rock. I nearly choked on the hypocrisy. Later, when he fell asleep, I checked his jacket pocket. A receipt from a jewelry store. Not near his office. Not near mine. A woman's necklace. Expensive. My hands trembled as I photographed it and slid the copy under the magnet. The next day, I visited my sister-in-law again. I pretended to drop off groceries. I asked her carefully, "Did you ever sign anything for him? Anything with your name?" She looked puzzled. "No." "Why?" "Because this lender keeps mentioning your loan," I said. Her brow furrowed. "Delaney, we never had a loan with them." "He told you that?" I nodded slowly. She looked hurt, confused. "I don't understand." Neither did I, until that afternoon, when I cross-checked the lender's address from the card. It matched an office suite registered under the same woman's name. The mistress wasn't just his secret. She was his partner in fraud. I drove back, parked across from the hotel again. This time I wasn't alone. I had brought a discreet camera, one I borrowed from a friend who worked as a journalist. From my car, I filmed him meeting her, sliding his hand across her back, entering the lobby. Every frame had timestamps. Every angle showed their faces clear as day. When I returned home, he was waiting with flowers. He pressed them into my hands, kissed me softly and whispered, "For being patient with me." I smiled because sometimes smiling is more dangerous than screaming. Behind me, the fridge door sagged under the weight of proof. That night, as the rain hammered the windows, I spread the evidence across the dining table. Receipts, photos, the forged documents, the jewelry bill. My folder was no longer just paper. It was a weapon. At 1 a.m., my phone buzzed again. The same blocked number. This time the message was longer. "If you want everything, come to the hotel roof tomorrow night. Midnight. Bring no one. Don't tell him. If you don't come, you'll never know the whole truth." I sat back, staring at the words glowing in the dark. My husband shifted in his sleep upstairs, oblivious. Tomorrow night, I would climb a rooftop into the heart of his secrets. If I went, I might finally see everything. If I didn't, I would always wonder how deep the betrayal ran. The message about the hotel roof haunted me all morning. I paced the kitchen, sipping cold coffee, eyes glued to the fridge where every piece of proof clung under that stubborn peach magnet. I could not keep walking this path alone. If I slipped, if I confronted him without backup, I might lose everything. So I called Claire. She was my closest friend since college, a lawyer with a sharp tongue and a sharper instinct. We met in her office downtown. The second I laid the folder on her desk, her expression shifted from curiosity to cold fury. "Delaney, this isn't just infidelity," she said, flipping through the papers. "This is fraud. Forgery. He's using your name on financial documents. That's criminal." "I know," I whispered. "But if I move too soon, he'll bury the trail. I need to catch him alive in his lies." She leaned forward. "Then you need allies. People you trust. I'll help you build a legal case airtight. But you need someone closer to your daily life. Someone who can step in if he suspects you're onto him." That night, I drove to my sister's house. Her name was Hannah Blunt, fearless, a nurse used to long nights and emergencies. When I showed her the video of him and the woman at the hotel, she swore under her breath. "Delaney, he's risking everything you built. You can't let him keep control." "I'm not," I said firmly. "But I can't confront him yet. There's more. Someone is feeding me information. A man I don't know. He told me to meet him tonight on the roof of that hotel." Hannah's eyes widened. "That's insane. Dangerous." "I need to know the truth," I said. "But I won't go alone. You'll wait in the car nearby. If I don't come down, you call Claire. You call the police." She hesitated, then nodded. "Fine. But if anything feels wrong, you run. Evidence is useless if you don't make it back." By late evening I had everything ready. A small voice recorder slipped into my pocket. The camera still charged. The folder locked in Claire's office safe. At home I smiled at him over dinner, feigned interest in his stories, even laughed at his weak jokes. Inside every muscle was coiled. "Long day?" he asked, pouring wine. "Busy," I answered, "but manageable." When he leaned over to kiss me, I smelled the faint trace of unfamiliar perfume again. It made my skin crawl. At 11:30, Hannah parked 2 blocks from the hotel. "I'll wait here," she said, gripping my hand. "Don't try to be a hero." I nodded and walked through the drizzle, my heart pounding against my ribs. The lobby gleamed with marble floors, but I headed straight for the elevators, pressing the button for the roof access. At midnight, the roof was slick from rain, the city lights stretching endless around me. A man stood near the edge, coat collar up, face shadowed. The same one from the cafe. "You came," he said softly. "Good. Then you're ready to see the rest." He handed me a flash drive. Everything he's done. Transfers. Emails. Photos. He's been siphoning money to accounts tied to her name. Together they've stolen more than you realize. My hand shook as I slipped it into my pocket. "Why help me?" "Because men like him think they're untouchable," he said. "They need to fall. And you need to be the one to push." Before I could respond, a noise cut through the rain. The roof access door slammed open. My husband's voice echoed, furious, sharp. "Delaney." The man vanished into the shadows. My husband's figure loomed in the doorway, wet from the storm, eyes blazing. He had followed me. His face twisted as he stepped onto the roof, scanning for answers. And in that moment I realized he knew I was no longer blind. His voice on that rooftop still rattled in my chest the next morning. He had stormed toward me, demanding answers, but I had slipped past him with only one sentence. "Not tonight." It stunned him long enough for me to get into the elevator, heart pounding, flash drive burning in my pocket. At home I locked myself in the bathroom, plugged the flash drive into my laptop, and watched file after file flood the screen. Transfers to offshore accounts. Emails between him and the mistress about timelines and clean exits. Screenshots of him forging my name. I sat on the floor for hours, scrolling, shaking. It was worse than I had imagined. By dawn, I knew I could not confront him with just words. I needed a counterplan. Precise, patient strike. I met Claire that afternoon in her office again. She skimmed the files, jaw tight. "This is gold. Enough to put him behind bars. But if you want public impact, if you want to end his credibility, you need timing. He's still respected. We need to break him where it hurts, his money and his reputation." I leaned forward. "How?" "His investors," she said. "He has a board meeting in 3 weeks. That's where deals are signed. If we expose him there, in front of them, no one will touch him again." The idea sparked through me like fire. I would not just end the marriage. I would end the illusion he had built on my back. But I couldn't do it alone. That night Hannah came over. I laid out the plan. Gather everything, prepare duplicates, coordinate with Claire. We'll bait him into thinking I still trust him. Let him get sloppy. Meanwhile, I'll be documenting every move. She nodded grimly. "Then we'll make sure you walk into that boardroom armed." The following days I lived in 2 worlds. In one I played the devoted wife, laughing at his jokes, joining him for dinners, even helping him pick out ties. In the other, I was a strategist, photographing receipts, recording his phone calls with a hidden app, backing up files on encrypted drives. Every smile I gave him was calculated. Every touch of his hand was another piece of bait. One night he stumbled home drunk. He dropped his phone on the nightstand and fell onto the bed fully clothed. I picked it up, fingers steady, and scrolled. Messages with her flooded the screen. "Soon. She'll never know." I moved another 30. "Paperwork is ready." My stomach turned, but I saved screenshots and sent them to my secure folder. Claire set up meetings with a forensic accountant. Together we traced the money. 72,000 here, 100,000 there. Slowly siphoned, hidden under fake expenses. All while he smiled across the table and told me we were tight on cash. But the closer I got, the more dangerous it became. Twice I caught him watching me strangely, as if he sensed I was drifting. Once he asked, "You've been quiet lately." Everything okay? I kissed his cheek and lied. Just tired. Inside I was steel. By the second week, I had enough for a case file thicker than a dictionary. Yet the plan needed a final piece. A stage, a moment where his own words would condemn him. That opportunity arrived on a Tuesday night. I overheard him on the phone in his office, door cracks slightly open. His voice was sharp, urgent. No, she doesn't suspect. I'll get the rest signed off soon. Then we're gone. I recorded every word. That night I told Hannah and Claire. We're ready. At the board meeting, I'll let him bury himself. They exchanged a look, both worried and impressed. Delaney, Claire said softly, once you do this, there's no turning back. I don't want to turn back, I answered. I want to finish it. 3 weeks. That was all the time left. But as I closed my laptop, a new message pinged on my phone. From the same block number as before. Be careful. He suspects you. And if he catches you before the meeting, he won't just ruin your name. He'll ruin you. The weeks passed like a countdown clock. Every morning I woke up beside him, smiled, kissed his cheek and thought, only days left until you fall. My folder of evidence was now triple backed up. One with Claire, one with Hannah, and one hidden in a safety deposit box under my maiden name. But no plan ever survives untouched. 2 days before the board meeting, the first crack appeared. I came home late from meeting Claire. He was sitting in the dark, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Where were you? He asked. His tone was soft, but his eyes were hard. Grocery shopping, I lied smoothly. He swirled the glass. Strange. Grocery stores don't close at midnight. My pulse skipped, but I forced myself to shrug. Traffic. Long lines. He studied me for a long moment before finally standing. You've been different, Delaney. Distant. You'd tell me if something was wrong, wouldn't you? I walked past him, brushing his shoulder. Of course. My smile was perfect. Inside I was fire. That night I barely slept. He was watching me more closely. If he suspected too much, he could shift money, erase files, destroy everything. The next morning Hannah called. We have a problem. He moved funds again, larger sums this time. If he keeps this up, the accounts might not match by the meeting. You'll lose your proof of scale. I gripped the phone. How large? Almost 200,000. And fast. It looks like he's preparing for an exit. Panic clawed at me, but Claire was calm when I showed her. This makes it riskier but also stronger, she said. If he's rushing, it means he feels pressure. We'll freeze the accounts with an injunction right before the meeting. But you'll need to keep him calm until then. No sudden moves. That evening, I played the doting wife harder than ever. I cooked his favorite meal, laughed at his stories, let him pour wine. He studied me, suspicion flickering, but the performance held. Later, when he stepped into the shower, I checked his phone again. This time, one message froze me cold. From her. Is she onto us? You've been acting strange. His reply. Maybe. I'll handle it before Friday. Handle it. The word scraped my chest. Did he mean silence me? I copied the message, sent it to Claire, and deleted the original. But fear crept into me like ice. The night before the meeting, Hannah slept at my house. We pretended it was a casual visit, but really she wanted to keep eyes on me. At 2 a.m. I woke to footsteps in the hall. My husband stood outside the guest room door, staring in the dark. Hannah shifted in her sleep, and only then did he turn away. At breakfast he smiled too easily. You'll come to the meeting tomorrow, won't you? I want you there. Front row. Yes, I said calmly, though my skin prickled. He was planning something. That afternoon, Claire called with the final setup. The injunction is ready. The accountant will be there. All you need to do is stay steady and at the right moment hand me the folder. We'll let his words destroy him. But fate wasn't done testing me. That evening, as I dressed for bed, my phone buzzed with another blocked message. Don't go tomorrow. He knows. If you walk into that room, you won't walk out the same. I froze. Who was sending these warnings? Were they trying to protect me or control me? I slid into bed beside him, heart racing. His arm wrapped around me, his breath steady. To anyone else, he looked like a loving husband. To me, he felt like a loaded weapon pressed against my side. Tomorrow was the board meeting, the battlefield I had chosen. But with every warning, every glance, every shift in his behavior, I could not shake one thought. What if the trap I had built for him had already been flipped, waiting for me? The morning of the board meeting felt like walking into a storm I had been chasing for weeks. I dressed carefully, simple black dress, hair tied back, pearl earrings. Nothing flashy. Nothing that would distract from what I was about to do. Hannah drove me downtown. She kept glancing at me, gripping the wheel tighter than usual. Delaney, if something feels wrong, you walk out. Do you hear me? I hear you, I said, though my voice was steady in a way I hadn't expected. The fear had burned away overnight. What remained was steel. The boardroom was on the top floor of a glass tower. A space designed for power. Long mahogany table, leather chairs, walls of windows spilling sunlight over polished floors. My husband stood at the head, surrounded by investors in expensive suits. He looked confident, rehearsed. When I walked in, he smiled like nothing was broken. Gentleman, my wife. Always supportive. His arm brushed mine as I took a seat. The contact made my skin crawl. The meeting began. Slides flickered on the screen, growth charts, projections, his practiced voice filling the room with promises of stability and profit. Every word was a lie built on the foundation of money he had stolen. I glanced toward Claire, seated discreetly at the back, a slim folder resting on her lap. She caught my eye and gave the faintest nod. Wait for the moment. Halfway through, one investor cleared his throat. We've noticed large transfers. Care to explain? My husband didn't blink. Routine restructuring. Nothing unusual. His voice was smooth. Too smooth. That was my cue. I stood slowly. Every eye turned toward me. Funny you should mention transfers. Perhaps I can help clarify. My husband stiffened, his jaw tightening. Delaney, sit down. But I didn't. I walked to the front, heels clicking sharp against the polished floor. From my purse I drew a small flash drive. Gentlemen, allow me to present a different perspective. Claire plugged it into the projector. The screen lit up with bank records, dates, amounts, all tied to offshore accounts under his mistress's name. Gasps rippled around the table. He shot to his feet. This is absurd. Fabricated. I pressed play on the recordings. His own voice filled the room. She doesn't know. I'll get the rest signed off soon. Then we're gone. The color drained from his face. The room erupted in whispers. You forged her signature? One investor asked, disbelief etched in every word. I turned to him, my voice clear. Yes. On multiple loans. Including one tied to my sister-in-law's debt. The money he claimed he needed to help family was diverted. To her. On the screen, a photo appeared of him and the mistress at the hotel, laughing, holding hands. It was undeniable. My husband's mask cracked. He slammed a fist on the table. You don't understand. This is business. No, I said firmly. This is betrayal. Of me. Of this company. Of everyone in this room. Security stepped forward at Claire's signal. Investors shouted over one another, demanding explanations, demanding answers. My husband's voice grew desperate, frantic. But I wasn't done. I reached into my purse one last time and pulled out a copy of the injunction. These accounts are frozen. Every dollar is under investigation. The only thing left is accountability. Silence fell heavy. His eyes locked on mine, blazing with fury and fear. For the first time he realized he wasn't in control. He lunged toward me, but security held him back. His tie was askew, his perfect composure shattered. As they dragged him from the room, he shouted words that cut through the chaos. You'll regret this, Delaney. You have no idea what's coming. And in that moment I knew the fight wasn't over yet. The boardroom didn't fall silent, it detonated. Investors slammed folders shut. Voices rose. Chairs scraped across the polished floor. Some shouted about fraud, others demanded legal counsel. A few simply stared at me like I had turned the entire room upside down with one flash drive. Security kept my husband pinned near the door. His face was red, veins bulging in his neck, eyes darting wildly for any ally. But there were none left. Even the men who had once toasted him at dinners looked away. His empire was crumbling faster than he could scream over it. Claire rose from her seat, her voice steady but sharp. You all heard the recordings. The transfers are documented. The accounts are frozen. The case is live. She held up the injunction like a judge delivering a verdict. My husband roared. This is a setup. She's framing me because she can't stand losing control. I stepped forward, steady as a blade. Losing control? You stole from your investors. You forged my name. You lied to every single person in this room. And you funneled it all to keep your mistress happy. The mistress? I hadn't even noticed her slip into the room until then. She stood near the back wall, pale as paper. Her eyes darted between me and him, horror spreading across her face. One of the investors recognized her and muttered, "That's the woman in the transfers." All heads turned. She froze, her lip trembling. And then, like a cornered animal, she tried to defend herself. I didn't know. He told me it was business. He said. But no one believed her. The photographs, the signatures, the recordings, they told the story better than her stammering ever could. The board saw her for what she was. Complicit, greedy, and exposed. One of the senior investors slammed his palm on the table. I'm calling the authorities. Right now. Phones came out. Calls were placed. The room was no longer his to command. It belonged to justice. I glanced toward my sister-in-law, who had been dragged to this meeting under the pretense of family support. Her face was drained of color. She whispered, "You knew all this time?" "Yes," I said, meeting her eyes. "I knew enough. And now you do too." Tears welled in her eyes. Not for me, not for the betrayal, but for the realization that she had been used as a pawn. Her loan had been the excuse, the cover story, the rope he'd used to pull money from me without hesitation. The mistress tried to slip out, but Claire's hand shot up. No one leaves. Security blocked the doorway. The chaos grew louder, papers rustling, angry voices overlapping, phones buzzing with news already spreading. Investors whispered about lawsuits, about clawing back money, about severing ties before their own reputations burned. And through it all, my husband fought against security, his voice breaking, sweat streaking down his temples. "Delaney, you think you've won? You think this will hold? I'll ruin you before they ruin me." I walked toward him slowly, my heels echoing across the floor. I stopped inches from him, my voice low but strong enough for the room to hear. "You already ruined yourself. All I did was show them the truth." He stilled, chest heaving. For the first time, his rage wavered. Fear cracked through his mask. He realized there was no way out, no spin, no speech that could save him. And then, in a final act of desperation, he screamed to the mistress, "Tell them it was your idea. Tell them you forced me." The room gasped. Even she flinched, betrayal slicing through her expression. Her voice cracked as she spat back. "You promised me everything. Don't you dare put this on me." It was over. He had burned his last bridge, destroyed his last ally, lost the final shred of credibility. But as police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, I felt a cold knot tighten in my chest. Because when security finally forced him down into a chair, he stopped struggling, stopped shouting, and only smiled. A sharp, chilling smile. He leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper, but every word laced with venom. "You think this ends with me, Delaney? Wait until you see who else is involved." The night of the board meeting bled into morning without rest. I didn't close my eyes once. My phone buzzed nonstop. Calls from journalists, messages from shocked acquaintances, even cautious texts from neighbors who had once envied our perfect marriage. By sunrise, his arrest was all over the news. Headlines screamed betrayal. CEO exposed by wife in boardroom scandal. Clips of him being escorted out in cuffs replayed on every channel. His face twisted in fury. And mine, calm, composed, undeniable, was frozen in screenshots beside him. But the chaos hadn't ended with his downfall. The phone on my kitchen counter rang with calls from detectives and lawyers. I had to recount everything, how I found the documents when I suspected the affair, how I pieced the trail together. Claire sat beside me, making sure my statements were airtight. "Do you realize the scale of this?" one investigator asked me. "He wasn't just hiding an affair. He's been siphoning millions over years. Some of his partners might be complicit. This could take months." Months. The word hit like a hammer. I wanted closure, but this storm wasn't over. His smile at the end, the warning echoed in my head. You think this ends with me? Meanwhile, the mistress was nowhere to be seen. Reports said she had vanished the night of the meeting, slipping into the city like a ghost. Some whispered she was already negotiating with prosecutors, trying to save herself by betraying him further. I didn't care. She was collateral, nothing more. But my sister-in-law wasn't so lucky. She showed up at my house the next afternoon, pale and trembling. "Delaney," she whispered, clutching her coat. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was using me as a cover. I looked at her for a long time. My anger wasn't just for him. It was for every person who had stood by, who had ignored the cracks. But I saw the tears in her eyes, the fear that she might lose everything because of his lies. Then prove it, I told her. Work with the investigators. Don't hide. If you knew less than you claim, the truth will protect you. She nodded, but her hands shook too hard to hold her coffee. That evening Hannah called. It's not over, Delaney. Some investors are furious. They're suing. You'll need to testify again and again. I can handle it, I said, though my voice was heavy with exhaustion. Yet even as I said it, the weight of reality pressed down. The house felt emptier than ever. His clothes were gone, his car impounded, his presence ripped away in a single night. I thought I'd feel free, but the silence was strange, oppressive. Then came the letters. Anonymous envelopes slid under my door, no return address. Inside were photocopies of contracts, other names, other signatures, hints of schemes bigger than I imagined. One note was scrawled in messy handwriting. He wasn't alone. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the papers, my stomach twisting. His final words in the boardroom hadn't been empty rage. He had meant them. There were more players in this game, shadows I hadn't yet seen. The next morning the news escalated. The authorities froze not only his accounts but several belonging to business partners. One was a politician. Another was a family friend. My phone exploded again, this time with questions I couldn't answer. Everywhere I turned, the betrayal spread like cracks in glass. But in the center of it all, one thing was clear. I had survived, I had exposed him, and I wasn't backing down now. As I closed the blinds that night, another envelope slid under the door. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single photo, me, taken from across the street only hours ago. Written across the back in ink. Next time you won't see it coming. The day of the final ruling began with heavy skies. Rain tapped against the courthouse windows as I walked in, flanked by Claire and Hannah. My heels echoed across the marble floor, but inside me there was silence. Months of hearings, months of headlines, months of watching my husband twist and claw for control, all of it came down to this. He was brought in wearing a suit that no longer fit. His tie was crooked, his hands cuffed. For a man who once obsessed over power, image, and control, he looked small. The judge read the charges: fraud, embezzlement, forgery. His lawyer tried one last desperate plea, painting him as a man under stress, manipulated by others. But the evidence I had placed in their hands was a blade no speech could dull. When the gavel struck, declaring the guilty verdict and sentencing him to years in federal prison, the courtroom erupted. Some gasped, some applauded quietly, and a few investors stormed out in fury at how they'd been deceived. My husband screamed. He lunged toward me, restrained instantly by officers, his face twisted with a venomous mix of hate and fear. I did not flinch. I did not look away. I had lived years of manipulation, humiliation, and betrayal. That moment wasn't his anymore. It was mine. Outside, the cameras swarmed. Microphones were thrust in my face. Mrs. Hayes, what do you say to women who feel trapped like you once did? How do you feel now that justice has been served? What happens next for you? I took a breath. The old me would have smiled politely, given safe words to keep up appearances. But that woman had died the night of the boardroom reveal. What rose in her place was steel. I want people to understand this, I said, my voice firm. Betrayal thrives in silence. When you see the signs, do not look away. Do not let someone convince you that your voice is too small, or your worth is less than theirs. The truth is your weapon. And if you carry it long enough, it can't be ignored. That night, the city seemed quieter. I returned home to an empty house, but it no longer felt hollow. Felt like mine. I walked through every room slowly, noticing how different the air was without his presence poisoning it. His suits, his colognes, his trophies, all gone, confiscated as evidence or auctioned off to repay debts. For the first time in years, the space belonged to me. Still, shadows lingered. On my desk sat the folder of anonymous envelopes, the photo of me taken from across the street, the scribbled warning that he wasn't alone. Some days the memory of those words chilled me more than his trial ever had. You think this ends with me? He wasn't bluffing. There were others. The cracks in his empire reached deeper than I could yet see. Instead of hiding from that truth, I prepared. I met with the investigators weekly. I gave them every document, every name, every lead I'd uncovered. I learned how to protect myself. Alarms, cameras, routines designed to keep me unpredictable. Fear had once frozen me. Now it fueled me. Weeks passed. My story traveled beyond our city. Letters began arriving, but not the threatening kind. Women wrote from across the country. Some trapped in abusive marriages, some recovering from financial betrayals, some simply thanking me for proving survival was possible. One letter in particular struck me. It read, "You don't know me, but your courage gave me the strength to leave my husband. I thought I was alone. You reminded me I wasn't." I sat with that letter in my hands for a long time. That was when I realized my revenge had already grown into something larger than him. It wasn't about the money or even the prison sentence. It was about reclaiming power not just for myself but for anyone who had been silenced. Claire raised her glass one evening, when the three of us sat together again. "To survival," she said. "No," I corrected gently, lifting my own. "To freedom." The news cycle eventually shifted, as it always does. New scandals rose, old ones faded. My husband's name became just another cautionary tale. His mistress a forgotten headline. But my name carried a different weight now. Not as a victim. As a survivor. As the woman who refused to be a wallet, a pawn, or a shadow in her own life. And though I know there are more battles ahead, new secrets waiting to surface, new enemies that his downfall might reveal, I no longer dread them. Because once you stand against betrayal and live to tell the truth, you never go back to silence. So if you are watching this, if you are listening to my story, remember this. Your worth is not defined by anyone else's lies. If someone tries to reduce you, to use you, to break you, do not give them that power. Hold your truth. Gather your proof. And when the moment comes, do not hesitate to strike with it. Because revenge isn't chaos. Revenge isn't destruction. Revenge is justice. And justice, when exposed at the right time, burns brighter than betrayal ever could. If this story struck you, if you've ever felt underestimated, remember, you are stronger than the lies told about you. Do not let silence protect betrayal. Speak, act, take back control. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, subscribe, because no betrayal goes unanswered here.